welcome you at the presentation of Marta Detlav, concept artist, and Kacper Niepokulczycki, and the floor is yours.
Hi guys, we're gonna kick off with. Just want to kick off with a short presentation of our teaser.
Toussaint, the land of love and wine.
Exactly how I remembered it.
And we would like to welcome you, and we're also very happy to be here. My name is Kacper Niepokulczycki, and I am an environment artist at CD Projekt Red Kraków.
And I'm Marta Detlav. I'm a concept artist, also in CD Projekt Red Krakow team.
And the topic of our presentation today is the teamwork behind an environment art. So we'll just give you right now just a short agenda for this presentation. At first, we'll just give you a few glimpses about what actually is Blood and Wine. The core of our presentation will be to show you how much our teams, and at this point, our environment team and concept art team work together, and what are the benefits of this work, and how we actually improved the project we were working on. And at the end, we'll have some time for you guys for the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, just please keep them in mind, and we'll do our best to answer those. Blood and Wine is the final expansion for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Who's excited for the expansion pack coming up? I'm super glad to hear that. And also, who read the books and is a fan of Witcher lore? So the Toussaint might be familiar for you guys, right? Or not? Not? Okay, so it's set in a Toussaint. We were super excited for this approach. It's much different than the base game, and super different in terms of visual style also. So it's much more happy, much more easygoing, much bright land than you saw in a Wild Hunt. So it was super different approach for us, but also very excited. Sorry, I just saw that the text is different, by the way. It's also, of course, it's open world, new hub, so it's super big. You're gonna have loads of fun with it, and with that, we also are happy that we could introduce you with some technical upgrades. Like for instance, we can create right now much more dense crowds in our game. So the cities and the villages are much more, filled with NPCs, which gives you much more immersive experience. But Marta, just kick off with what we do actually.
Okay, I'm a concept artist, and my role as a concept artist is creating most awesome, beautiful images, but they are not simply eye candies, like some kind of marketing images. Rather, they design purpose. Like in theater, there's always some guy behind scenography, costume design, and the same thing works in game dev. I'm this scenography and costume design guy, and I gave my concepts to environment teams, to 3D character teams, and inspired them to make from this something more than just pictures.
Exactly, and basically I take those ideas, I take those inspirations from Marta's team, and I try to create the game based on those ideas, but also I need to make it a game, so it needs to be gameplay smooth, gameplay-wise, correct, as to say. And my goal is to create those locations as nice and beautiful as possible, but also as playable as possible. So this is this challenge here to create this synergy between the idea and the actual game we are trying to build together here. And to prove this point here, we created a case study for you, very interesting one. Marta, maybe you can start
exactly.
off.
if you are a fan of the Witcher saga of Andrzej Sapkowski, you probably know Toussaint and Beauclair. And one of the most recognizable locations here, Palace of the Beauclair. It's an elven palace very well described by Andrzej Sapkowski. It has slime-high towers, red roof tiles, candle-like construction, etc., etc. It's pure gem of whole Toussaint, main headquarters of Anna Henrietta, the Duchess. So we decided to follow this description as much as it was possible. So after many brainstorms, many discussions with writers, quest designers, also with environment artists and character artists, we came with our first approach.
Yeah, we let them do the dirty work. So they started,
Yeah.
and the first approach was something like this.
Yeah. After this discussion, we formulated few challenges, like we had to place our city and our palace in very believable environment. So here you have one of my first sketches for this location. I was under big impression of Saragossa manuscript film, so I painted this in very warm, dry colors with little small buildings around covered with white plaster. And I was quite satisfied with this idea because you can see this palace is very well visible. You can also see a river, this was one of our requirements, to have a river going through our city and our whole Toussaint. So yeah, I was satisfied, but of course I had some feedback from environment artists.
Yeah, we always try to communicate as much as we can. So after we saw this concept art, this concept piece you're just seeing right now, at first we had some the same ideas to share. Like Marta said, the palace should be visible from almost every part of the world. It's kind of a landmark for us. It helps the player to be led, in the terms of game design and level design. Sorry. So we try to make it, and here we were actually very satisfied with this. That we got this mountain here, the tall towers in this palace, but we also saw some kind of challenges that might be also some issues. Like we saw that this bridge probably is going to be too long for us. We figured that the player, he might be able to see very nice vistas going through this bridge, but still it might be too long for him.
This is very epic.
Yeah, no, but we are trying to.
Epicness is cool.
We're trying to reach like 9,000 level epicness, not like 9 million. However, I agree this would look good, but we figured that this might be actually a little bit too long. So we asked the concept art team for a different approach for iteration, right?
Yeah, so we made these next iterations. So after Kacper's request, I make on the left side version. I made the bridge much more shorter, so I hope this is better for you now. But I also changed
the bridge is shorter. We're super happy with that.
Yeah. I also changed whole landscape around our palace because Toussaint is a land of the wine, of the happiness, very colorful, very vibrant. So we changed to a much more green one.
Again, this is the case here. We love that. We love that this is right now it's green, not yellow, wherever it looks like that. Right now, it's more believable as the living world, like filled with wineries and those mountains in the back with some kind of villages. So this was a great approach, and this was a great, iteration in terms of what we liked. But you also had...
one more thing. As you can see on the left side, this building looks more like a castle, not a palace. So that's why we abandoned this one. So I came with the version of the right side. And I had the idea that this would be super cool to have city looking like a Venice, with little boats very close to the streets, to our characters from crowds, with wine festival on this platform.
And for this platform, look at this. It's totally flat. So basically, the Toussaint is filled with mountains, with hills. That for us is a huge opportunity to make those vistas much bigger, nicer, and more open. So making something flat, trying to it doesn't help us in this point. So, and as for the Venice-alike look on your top right. For us also, we thought that it would be super boring just be in a boat all the time, like going on a boat all the time or across the river on a bridge might be boring. And also, if we probably know that if there's a river, it's going to be still probably flat part of the land, which won't make those nice vistas because we tried to put those as much as we could. It's kind of this also. unique setting that we are trying to
So
push here.
this great idea was killed by one man.
Again, but don't get me wrong, I totally think that this might be looking super nice on paper, but not in the game.
Okay. Okay, I have to agree. That was very valuable feedback for me, because in next iteration,
So we asked concept art for next iteration.
yeah, we try to avoid these flat lines. Flat lines are not very sexy.
Not sexy at all.
So we tried with another ones. We tried to avoid cliché as much as it was possible, because after Tolkien there were thousands of very similar versions of elves, of elven culture. So we tried to do some more exotic or maybe more fairy tale, like on the right side. And I also like this left one because there's a lot of different balconies on different levels. But these giant domes, maybe even for me, it looks maybe too much, fantasy, high fantasy.
Like, yes, high fantasy.
Yeah. So except I suppose that environment artists will be complaining about this one.
When we saw this, we thought that this is super cool. This is unique. This is interesting. This is something new. And again, Marta, as you said, you got those kind of bridges going between those domes to help, give us this verticality here, which was super cool. But try to imagine putting Geralt there. Do you have it in your head? Me neither. So it's kind of hard. Again, this is super cool, super idea, and I think this might work with a different game, but it's not something that Witcher lore actually would be connected with. So we try to go
Next
further.
One. So we had this giant broccoli. I personally love this one. It's my favorite.
Everyone loves broccolis, right? All your veggies here. Get your broccolis, and I know we're gonna have those broccolis in a game someday.
Yeah,
but
Roach
not
will
this
love
one.
this one.
Not this one. But yeah.
Okay. Okay, we definitely were.
So you guys just basically got lost, right?
Yeah, we gone too far in our experiments, crazy experiments. Concept artists sometimes are too much crazy, and this in the stage.
That's why we're talking and saying, chill out, don't do broccolis anymore.
Yeah, so we had to find some solution how we can fix it. So we decided, we started to think, and we decided, so we have to came back to our basics, to our first goals. So, and our first goal was to follow descriptions as much as
and
it
make
was
the
possible.
shorter bridge.
And no broccolis, no.
And no
I know.
broccolis. No broccolis,
So-
shorter bridge, we're here.
Okay, so we came back to our first concept, which maybe it's not perfect, but as we said, it has some good ideas.
What was really good base for going further.
Yeah, also
but not in the broccoli way.
Yeah. Also, those solids of this building were maybe they not exactly look like a candle-like construction, but they were good base. Also, we changed totally landscape for a green one, and so we could push this very, 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 very simple base to something much more difficult, much more detailed.
Yes, and so from that, you try to imagine how the references are actually in the world, right?
Yeah, so we started to think that Novigrad is typical medieval city in its very mature period with seaport, like Gdańsk in North Poland. Also, Skellige is typical some kind of Nordic, Celtic, Viking culture with drakars, shield maidens, with berserkers. So we had to find some very similar analogy to our Toussaint. And of course, Toussaint is a lot of wine, so our first thing in our minds was, okay, maybe some kind of France countryside, maybe some Provence or Bordeaux could be good reference for us, but also, Toussaint is very rich region, very full of resources, and because there are no wars, no conflicts, they could focus on culture and architecture things like some very powerful medieval Italian cities like Verona, Urbino, Venice, and also those cities were pioneers of the Renaissance style, and this was very good clue to us to follow this track.
And we also, as the environment team, were happy that they took this approach, because I think it's totally understandable that basing something on actual references that we know from everyday life always tries to sell this idea much more than the broccoli. So. So we were happy that they took this approach, and the Italian-like and French-like environments with those wineries and filled with live hills were the perfect references for us also.
Yeah. Also, I want to say that in my personal opinion, realistic design based on historical references. For example, if you want to draw some kind of armor for knight, you have to know how real armor really works, tak? Yeah.
How it works, yes.
Yeah, and the same thing works with the architecture with an environment. However, copying is lazy. It's absolutely unprofessional and unsatisfying for us. So we didn't want to create exactly copy of France, exactly copy of Italy. For example, Witcher series is very well known for its Slavic Polish inspirations. And one more time, our solution came with historical references. For example, right now we are in Krakow, which is a great example of Renaissance Polish architecture. And you have plenty of those examples like Zamość, Kazimierz Dolny, other cities in Poland, which we could use in our references to create our Buckler city.
Yeah, this gave us the tools to try to understand and create our own kind of twist of this architecture in Tucson. And
Exactly.
Also, as far as I know, you had some challenge with the actual architecture for the palace, right?
Yeah, we have the same problem with a palace. We decided to follow Gothic style. Maybe it's not so fresh idea to the Elven culture. But of course, we had to fix this and combine this with other styles, with our own interpretations. For me, Gothic style is the best for the Elven culture because it's very vertical, it's very spiritual, like a whole Elven culture. So I think with some Art Deco details and organic elements, it could be perfect for our Witcher game. You could ask why we need new design of the Elven architecture, because you probably saw examples of Elven architecture in the previous parts of The Witcher, for example, in Witcher White Hunt, in Witcher Assassin of the Kings. However, those assets were used in very small locations, like in ruins, like abandoned tombs or underground.
It was used very widely, and as far as I know, it's kind of hard for you guys to go out there and just grab some photos of Elven architecture. So we need to you need to design it from the scratch, right?
Yeah.
And further, we ask you to create kind of this objects, so to speak.
Concept arts. Okay. So I took my first sketch and I tried to think, okay, what is the most important parts of this building, of this location? So I chose tower, gate, donjon, or something like this, and tried to make first very simple 2D linear sketches of them to create some kind of architecture key, like in students' architecture book, to have some principles in future for our environment artists to create models.
Yes, and this was actually one of those moments where we were super happy with this concept art. We had kind of the visual library here. We have this language of how to create and build this palace. It was super important for us, super helpful for us, because we could just looking at those concept art, we could actually try to build the whole places and the whole parts of the palace. So it was this kind of key for us, how we can model those elements and how to even put them together to create some kind of meshes and parts of this whole palace, like even this rosetta here.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity for me to create this very organic rosette.
And this was a great opportunity for a model, 3D environment artist who did like 1 million polygons on that, and was super happy with the result, but it was kind of heavy, so.
Sorry. So that's why we choose the first one, the most.
Just 100 million polygons.
But it also was very, also awesome feedback for me, because in the future I will avoid this kind of very, 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 very difficult.
But still, it's super cool. The Elven architecture's always got this kind of organic feel to it. So this actually super helps to sell this idea. but you know we got those restrictions sometimes.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, I thought I was some about this.
And we
can
have-
you came back for a second?
Oh, sorry. Sure.
I also wanted to show you this colorful sketch because in the same time when I created this very simple 2D sketches, very linear one, I created this left one to check out how our characters from our crowds, because I also was responsible for crowd design, how they are going to work on these very specific backgrounds. And after this one, I was quite sure it's a good way to follow.
Okay, so can you go further?
Yeah, sure.
And this is our famous bridge, shorter but nicer, right?
Okay, it's not the final version, so don't worry.
Yes.
There's no spoilers here. So as you can see, there is a lot of very visible Art Deco style, very ornamentic, a little bit more maybe Baroque. Yeah. I also tried to create some elements like these arches, to create some very flexible parts of this castle. So in the future, Kacper could take this arc and add them to some walls, and you may make them much more attractive in a visual way.
We actually did that, so it was super nice. So this was this kind of the place where we had this conversation going on and on and on to help us, achieve what we want from the art point of view in terms of how it cool might be looking and what I can actually do to make this game run on all the hardware which is putting this game out. So this was actually this crucial part where we just were talking together and thinking how we can approach this challenge in a different way.
That's true.
And it helps us a lot. I mean, it helps us a lot to save some time and to make this game much pretty. And with those parts from Marta, I mean those kind of Lego blocks from Marta, we could start to block out the draft for this palace. We also was trying to ask, we tried and asked Concept Art, the Marta team, to provide us with some kind of sketches for kind of issues if we can stumble upon. And I just want to show you one of those challenges we had together. There's something that we haven't seen before on those concept art, that the mountain is very steep. And when we tried to put this block out on a level, we had this problem that Geralt was slipping off. I mean, it was way too steep for the Geralt to move up, even on a horseback.
Yeah. Also, from a visual point of view, it's very boring for a player to see very rapid path.
Exactly. Exactly. You're gonna go there and see your foot. So we tried to figure out the way how to make this path on this draft here, leading from the bottom part to the top part of the palace. And we tried to make it, less steep, but also we tried to put as much as possible nice vistas going on this path, because we try to put those vistas everywhere we can, because this is actually what helps to set the fan of playing the game. And we also knew that we had to make some kind of breathtaking vista for the whole bouclair from the top of this palace here on this draft. So we actually talk about it, how we can approach this, how to make this kind of maybe an easy fix, but still was a fix to make this road much interesting for the player.
But honestly, I didn't complain about this because it was a chance to me when the way could be much more longer. I also could add more elements here, like stables, armory, or something like that. However, there was one problem with consistency of whole location, because it was really easy to fall in some kind of feeling that every building is scattered over the hill and there is no sense, no plan of
basically
this whole
just
location.
it started to fall apart, and it looked like just towers on a mountain. It didn't look like a whole palace, like as one structure. So we tried to keep it together. And we tried to make it, like an actual palace, not like two towers on wherever place.
Sure.
And after that, Marta came up with the final sketch, the final concept art for the front part of this palace.
Yeah. As an environment artist, I could use my architecture key, which I created before. And for me, it was very quick stage to realize, because I have whole library of details, whole library of arches, and all whole stuff prepared before. So I haven't to draw each building on the separated concept. I just could go with a flow and that was great for me.
Exactly, and for us, our team had the tools to create this location, even with this concept art and those previous concept art with those kind of Lego blocks with different parts, and even if there are some parts not visible in this palace that are actually in the game, we had enough knowledge and this visual library of buildings blocks to actually create this location in 100% in the game. So this was this. We had those tools, we had those ideas from concept from concept artists to actually help us to build this location much quicker and probably much nicer that it would turn out different.
And I was quite happy with the results because this building, like you can see now, it's quite massive, but it's still vertical. So
yes, we had all those pillars. We had. It's very visible from every part. It's on a mountain. It had bridge, shorter, but it still has the bridge. And we have the river, we have the huge Gorgona in the back, so it's all lined up perfectly from the books and what we try to imagine.
Gorgona is a giant mountain.
Yes, it's the biggest mountain in the lore. So this is the location in the game, how it actually looks after all those iterations, after all those polish pass, level design pass. It's basically what's going to see in the game, and this is different spot when you can see the palace sphere. Guys, we would love to show you more for the gameplay elements from the game, but the game is out in 2 weeks, so we don't want to spoil you anything. But you also can check out the dev diary. It went live like last Friday or last week, something like that. Yeah. You can see some more gameplay footage there. You also got the teaser, but sorry, you don't want to spoil anything. You just need to wait 2 weeks. Can you do it? You sure?
Hardly.
Can you just tell me you're sure you can wait for that? It's going to be worth it. I'm totally agree that it's going to be super nice experience. But we don't want to say that, okay, we just make together with the Marta and create this palace, and after that just went our different ways, didn't work together. We had tons and tons of different examples that we went through this process, but we're just going to give you a short glimpse of another cooperation, how it went with our teams to achieve different look. But Marta's going to give you an introduction about what we worked here.
Yeah, because our palace look very beautiful, very epic, very impressive. But you could ask, come on, Witcher franchise is very dark fantasy world, very grim one with full grayscale of characters, with devastated, with war, with Nilgard. So where it is this dark side of into songs.
In this beautiful place, right?
Yeah, it's great for retirement or something like this.
I would love to retire there.
But however, so we had to find a balance between our idyllic description from novels and versus our dark atmosphere for the game series. And we had a few methods. One of them is hiding disturbing elements, disturbing content, very creepy one, in small items, in, for example, wall murals, in frescoes, or in the sculptures. Here you can see one of my favorite tasks for this expansion pack. I had to make a concept of elven sculpture around the palace, and I decided to show on them the dark side, very sad side of elven history, how their race is going to extinct, how the childs and the younglings are dying in nonsense conflicts. So for me, it was great to draw something more creepy than sweet.
Yeah, your favorite part, right? I know that Marta came up with just many ideas, and when the character art producer saw the many ideas, he said, "Oh my God, who's going to do it?" But it was super cool. It gave us the idea how we can, as Marta said, how we can actually, give a twist to small details to make the player feel that something's off, but he needs to, kind of investigate what is off. And this is selling this idea that there is like a second bottom part that might be different than the whole you're going to see. And also we had this conversation how we can approach different day and night cycles, because as you know, monsters like to go outside at night. So we had to also think about how we can approach the lighting in a different times of day and night. So we had also this conversation how we can approach this for the art style at first.
Yeah, I created about I don't know, 7 different
Many.
versions of this one concept in different lights. And we had more this kind of mood boards in different locations in the middle of the city, in the countryside, to capture this atmosphere, this moment. Because, we wanted to build our atmosphere in-game of this blood and wine by contrast. During the day, our land is very beautiful, very peaceful, and during night is a favorite, time for monsters, and this is exactly what we wanted to achieve.
Exactly.
This creepy atmosphere.
Yes, and we had those sketches with the different approach for the lighting at different parts of the day and night, which also helps us to actually build the environments in terms of lights and different effects to create this kind of creepy look and feel of this part of the day,
Yeah,
basically.
It's quite obvious that light is one of the most important parts of the atmosphere. It's
Yeah, so basically it was kind of different approach for the challenge, but still we just try to make the same conversation over and over, how we can create this parts of this game together to make it consistent between our teams. And also we have another example here. At some point in the story, gonna stumble upon a market square which is filled with festival wine, tents, and people just getting drunk and happy there. Super nice place to be, probably. Again, we had to make a idea from somewhere. So we asked concept artists to provide us with a concept art, which looked like this and was super cool. But after all the iterations, as we said before, we came up with this location in our game. So it's kind of different. I mean, the setting of the decoration and the feel of this whole location is basically the same. But as you can see, there are much different paths. The tents are much wider for the girl to go there and actually explore. So it was the same example of how we iterate and talk together over and over and over to actually create this tent and the whole market square. But you're gonna see it in a game. So this kind of as examples we had like many. Like we are trying to talk together all the time to work together in this good way and going further together.
Yeah.
That's it,
That's
Marta?
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Okay.
I just
Super
can
happy you
agree.
And what are the benefits basically of working together, guys? So I think that one of those most important benefits are quality shit. We can do things much better than working alone, and this proves our point. I think that working together, talking together, and trying to iterate gives you much better results. But also,
Yeah, talking with each other. Maybe it seems very simple and obvious, but we have to remind ourselves it's every time with every project. So for me, as a concept artist, I can learn so much from an environment artist. For example, you could see this this organic rosette, very complicated one. And in future, I will avoid this kind of problems, and I will save my time. It's beneficial for me.
yes, of course. And for me, as Marta kind of throwing me these ideas, at many points it was kind of even a pre-production for a place, for a location, which also saves me lots of time. And we can have this conversation much early to figure if the idea for the location is actually good or bad. So this saves us a tons of time, but also gives us huge, like a boost of ideas from the both sides. And also we're trying. By doing that, we're trying to keep ourselves out of the comfort zone. So basically, we're trying to push ourselves further with those ideas to make it, even better than maybe we tried to do it at the first place.
Yeah, that's true. Because someone could say that this kind of talking stuff will block my artistic freedom. It's not true. It's rather keeps me out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I could draw something in my easy way, which I well know from my experience, but with Kasper's feedback, with a whole, and even level design feedback, character artist feedback,
basically the whole team.
I could
right?
achieve absolutely new level of my concept art.
Yeah, the same goes for me. I had many, instances where I was thinking about some kind of location where I'm going to probably build, and after Marta gave me something, I thought that this is super cool. We're going to go this way, not the other way around. So this always gives us this idea boost that in many cases, I would say in most cases, is the better way
Also,
for us.
Even each guy in the team has some kind of responsibility. Even concept artists, we're not just a monkey with a pencil. we have to know what we are going to do, and we have to communicate with each other, because whole game dev is teamwork, and teamwork is about talking with each other.
Yeah, and basically we're not working on our parts, just making the whole project, the one big game. So this is our main goal. So guys, we are hiring basically.
If you want to try our teamwork.
Yes, if you want to try our teamwork, work with us, and do quality stuff, you can always apply through the page you're going to see here. There's also a booth on the floor, so we can always recommend you to go there to talk with our friends there. They will give you all the informations. We are looking for almost any position right now. Krakow, Warsaw, we're looking for many talented people. So if you think about it, just do it, and I hope we can maybe see each other in a team together soon. Okay, guys, so if there are questions, we have some time now to answer those. Okay. No. Maybe you can ask if it's for Marta, for me, or it's for both.
Okay, so this one's for the both of you. The first question, actually, I have two. The first one is about the process. You say that it's you're talking back and forth and it's going pretty much all the time, and that's great to hear. But how do you make sure that you're not that it's converging to a goal, right? So that you're not just basically drilling in empty space and just coming up with ideas and getting over deadlines and stuff like that. Do you keep these things in track, or do you have producers waiting with whips?
Basically, we have producers in Krakow and Warsaw, and basically you got producers who's going to tell me that just stop, finish this because we have deadlines. And yes, basically we have producers, we have also leads who are saying that, okay, this direction is good, maybe this is not that good, so maybe you can drop this. So we got also this one layer of feedback that it actually helping us with this direction we can take or not, and also if we have time for that or not. I hope this explains the question.
Okay, so my first question will be, how long does it take to make the concept art like this?
It's for Marta.
Okay, it's a hard question because usually I don't work on the only one task. I create some concept art, for example, for a palace, and when I'm waiting for a review, for a feedback, I start to work on something else. So this time a little bit is going to be stretched, but it's good for me because I can take some free time from some pictures, and don't be tired with them. So it's really hard to say how long it's going to take because, for example, whole location of Palace, it was about hundreds of different sketches, and if you want to show you all of them, it will take about 3 hours. So it's really hard how long it takes. It depends of the case.
Exactly. I want to say that sometimes we can even throw a Marta like a screenshot of a draft location, and Marta can overpaint this in terms of how it might actually look. So as I can understand, it makes less time on stuff like that.
And sometimes I have, especially on the beginning of the process of developing, I have a time to, go crazy and, do all these experiments with broccolis. But during the, in later stages of production, I have some really, tough requirements, and I have to follow them because, this is my responsibility.
Okay, so the second question is, who has the ending vote in the arguments that concept artists like something very much and you environment artists don't like it very much, and who has the ending vote? And because it's when the argument is too long and nobody can...
Well, why are we going to try to, argue like for a month, there's going to be probably art director saying that, guys, do something with that, and he's going to probably give us some directions or even a feedback how it might look or how you can approach this to finish this. So as I said, there's always at this point this art producer saying that, guys, we need to take this approach to finish in a deadline, so maybe you can do this and that.
Not art producer, but art director, or game director.
Basically there's some kind of director saying us what to do at some points. But I think that we never had this kind of issue that we were just talking like a ping pong all month or whatever long, we always came to a solution in a relatively, I would say, short time. I think, and I hope.
Okay.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay, so my second question is
sorry.
actually, Marta, you mentioned that you have a library of stuff that you reuse in concepts, and could you elaborate on that a bit more? I mean, what types of libraries? Is it all elements, and you just stick them together and overpaint them to make it look like a whole concept, or is it, how much there is with each concept there's new stuff that you have to come up with, and how much can you reuse actually from previous work?
It also depends. I had a situation when I created a lot of concepts for the sculptures, and of course none of them were used in our final product. So, but later I had to do some kind of other design, character design, and I used some elements for this sculpture, because there was some good idea in very narrative way, because concept art is about narration, but in visual way. So I also, during my researches, I gathered tons of different, textures, photographies, references, and it's after many months of even years of working as a concept artist, it came to be natural. So I can see some picture in the internet, some artwork, and I know that he based on the specific photo. It's quite cool, but sometimes it destroys the fun because I know the source of it.
Since you are done with Witcher, more or less, for a while, how do you feel about switching from medieval fantasy themes to cyberpunk, the futuristic urban
You want to start?
themes?
Okay, for me it's great. I can't wait.
Yeah, me neither. I'm super excited for that, and it's completely new and fresh approach in terms of visual style. So I think that we're gonna have tons of fun while working on that, and I think the whole team is super excited just to do that, different approach from, as you said, visual of this kind of medieval style than the futuristic style right now.
So yay!
So I have a quick question about saying goodbye to Witcher. And seeing that there's tons of work and art, is there a company thinking about releasing an art book about Toussaint? And I'm wondering how the previous art was chosen to create the art book. How it is done? Do you take active
role in this?
Or is it chosen by someone else?
The first part of the question about the artwork for Toussaint, I have no idea, to be honest, but it's a cool idea. So I will try to pitch this idea, and maybe we can get something, because it is actually a cool idea, but I have no clue how it works in this moment. As for the previous art books, me personally, I didn't have any, involvement in that, so it's also hard for me to tell you how it works. But I know it's also a strong communication, teamwork with marketing department. So they are also heavily involved in that. But I don't know how it works in details. But I know we have some PR marketing department people right now. So maybe you can maybe I will show you who's that, and maybe you can ask the question by yourself to those people, and they will actually, answer this question much better than I did.
Thank guys. I'm Alice. Thank you for your presentation. It's very nice. And
thank you.
I wanted to ask you also a question about the process.
Sorry, about what?
About the process of your work together with the other team, because you were talking about collaboration of your teams, and how is it done when you how you collaborate with the quest designers? For example, you you part all this expansion and all the world into quests or into just a different part of the city. So are you discussing partly the streets, or are you discussing what will happen in the first part of the game or the second part of the game?
That is almost the same. I mean, of course, we're just talking with different team, but all the time it's the same conversation. We basically knew where this quest A, let's call this, is going to take place. So we knew it's going to be like a street or plaza, wherever. And we were also trying to speak with these quest designers after they were iterating the quest. We had super fast feedback from quest designers in terms of this works, this doesn't work, maybe we can switch this. Like, like someone, had the idea to put a kind of broken wall because Geralt can sneak through, so we had to do this. And this was basically the same process of talking together with different feedback, but it was super responsive, I would say. That the quest designers are those guys who are super into their work also, so they want to have the best, quest as they want to have. So we had, I never had any problems with quest designers in terms of that I broke something that I didn't know about. I had always the feedback that helps me to support the location with this quest. I hope this is enough.
No, I was just. Of course, it shouldn't be any problems. But I mean, I was creating the quest games. You know, the adventure games. The adventure games, they're smaller ones and they are linear. But when you're creating the world like open world, where you should start of your sketches, because when we were creating the small games, the adventure games, we started from the first location to the next location and so on. And now as a concept artist, for example, what the first place you take, except of this bridge and the whole city?
You can't start from the detail. You have to start from the general view. Yeah, yes. Global view. So in the same time when we were working on the palace, we were also working on the city of the Clare, on the countryside, and
the whole hub basically. And I just want to say that you said about linear games, it's much different than the open world games because we had like many quests done the same. And again, we had this, when we start to work on the kind of location, like for example, the Bouclair, we had some kind of a block out and a first, draft for this place. And at this point, story writers and quest designers had some ideas for the quests.
Yeah, so I can use those blockouts to create those sketches on this blockout. So we have some sketch of the location on the level, but still I can polish it in my visual point of view. And a quest artist can already point some quests on this location, and Kacper can polish this on the level design.
So basically, we provide them with the most basic location, I would say, for this, for the start for these quests. And from that, we had this concept art team working, our team working, quest designer team working, and this, start rolling to the final quest. That's better. If that's enough for. Okay, thank you.
More questions?
Hi.
Hi.
At first, when you were designing the rough geometry of castle and its surroundings, you shown us only colorful images. And my question is, do you work on pure design of a form and on a geometry by making some sketches without color? Or is it always... or is it always like you shown?
It depends.
I mean, it depends exactly. At first, we always work with the great geometry just to block out some spots. We had the privilege that at some point we have super nice concept art from for the houses or for the palace parts. So it's always nice to use those as a kind of texture to give it a feel if it works or not. But we have different approaches and depends on the time, on what kind of location we are working on. We had many locations just done with gray blockouts of primitive geometry all over the world because we didn't have time to make it much more, detailed at some point, but we had to test if it works or not.
Yeah, also, different concept artists has different, different styles, and they prefer to work on the color concepts or on the black and white concepts. We didn't force them to do exactly what's in exact technique, except it should be realistic. But
yeah, we had also a tons of black and white concept arts that was super helpful for us. So, as long as they are useful, they are good. That's good enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it? No more questions, guys? Come on.
So thank you very much to Marta and Kacper for a great presentation. Thank you.
We just want to say, if you want to drop us an email about a question or anything, you just can do it. We also have some kind of gifts for you guys, but we have no idea how to give it to you.
I can go to the back and...
Because I don't want to throw these posters in you, because it might be super,
Maybe I can go with a bag and let people,
You think it's going to be safe for you? I don't think so.
Okay.
Guys, last year I threw things at people. So if you want to, we can do it again. You sure? All right.
Okay, so...